Hi, I'm Jim Bergeron, pastor at Holy Cross Lutheran Church in Houston. This is the sermon for Sunday, the fourth Sunday of Epiphany in the C series. If God is really God, can He call you and it be a wrong number? When God calls young Jeremiah to be his prophet, it sounds suspiciously like David's song in Psalm 139. Paul Tillich, in his meditation on this psalm, said, "Man desires to escape God. Men of all kinds, prophets and reformers, saints and atheists, believers and unbelievers have the same experience. It is safe to say that a man who has never tried to flee God has never experienced the God who is really God. Wrong number, God, I am only." God calls. Jeremiah says, "Must be a wrong number. I'm only a youth." He was probably 12 to 14 years of age, same age as Jesus in the temple, same age as David up against Goliath. Seriously, can you accept our government getting advice from a 13-year-old pimply kid with a voice that cracks at the wrong time? As much as we lift up our youth culture, the young are still discounted. Nicholas Sandmann, the young man who marched for life with his Catholic school in Washington, D.C., was marginalized and slandered for just standing there and saying nothing. Rodney Dangerfield used to tell of his troubled childhood. "They sent me to a child psychiatrist, and I must say, the kid didn't help a bit." God told Jeremiah, "Don't say, I am only. I will help you succeed." To quote Muhammad Ali, "Stay in college, get the knowledge, stay there till you're through. They can make penicillin out of moldy bread, they can sure make something out of you." There was a child born to a family where the father had no formal school at all. His mother was a teacher. His IQ was measured at 81, 2 points above challenged. Hopeless. He tried school for 3 months. He was withdrawn from it. Then he got scarlet fever and was going deaf. He was emotionally stunted and closed off from human interaction. He did like taking things apart and playing with fire, which resulted in him burning down his father's barn. He didn't speak well, but he wanted to be a railroad engineer. There are a lot of he was onlys in there, including he was only Thomas Edison. Seems God had fitted this young man with prenatal power and purpose, which was potential and promise for our nation. The whole world benefited by his invention. Don't forget that God is taking what we consider a little bit, making a whole lot out of it. Moses was only a shepherd, stutterer, but he freed a nation by arguing with an evil and powerful Pharaoh. It was only a slingshot, but Goliath fell for it. He was only a mama's boy sissy, but Jacob wrestled with God and fathered 12 tribes. It was only 5 loaves and 2 fish, but Jesus fed 5,000. Funny how God is real consistent about doing things like that. I am only. 3 deadly words. God won't let us get by with saying them. There's a lady named Marilyn Vos Savant, who is reputedly the highest IQ measured by the Stanford Binet test, 228. She had a column where people asked her questions, some of them questions obviously designed by the authors to pit themselves against her intelligence. One man wrote, "I think our purpose is only to pursue happiness in any way possible, regardless of the means. What do you think?" Marilyn answered, "If there is an intelligent creator with a plan for the universe, then our purpose is directed and empowered by our creator. If there is no creator and life is random evolution, there is no purpose." God had a plan for Jeremiah, and he helped it to happen despite Jeremiah's protestation that he was only a kid. God has a plan for humanity, even though we sometimes use that for an excuse for our blunders and big mistakes. After all, I'm only human. Only human? You mean right up there with the angels? Only human? God's enhanced Creation 2.0 plan includes, for the first time, the first words that are spoken by creatures, thus distinguishing humans from all other denizens of creation. Not a human word is spoken in the Bible until Genesis 2:19. That is where God expresses his prenatal purpose for us all as he coaxes the first words out of Adam, who doubtlessly protested, "I'm only an animal." Our speaking begins when we name the created things, thus responding to the God who coaxes us into the stewardship of his creation and responding to the amazing gifts of life that God has given us. Genesis 2:18-23 begins our God-created privilege simply being able to speak. The mouth is the organ which distinguishes humanity above all creatures. The organ of speech, the capacity for language, is the essential condition for humanity. Apparently, Mom was onto something when she would admonish, "Use your words," just not "I am only" as an excuse. 1973, I worked with a young woman who was told she couldn't be a pastor because she was only a woman. We were colleagues on a clinical pastoral education team. She was one of the first ordained women in the Episcopal Church in the United States. She described how the first time she served communion, when she handed a male priest the host, he gouged her hand with a fingernail, making her bleed. One Sunday, she did pulpit supply in a country parish upstate Pennsylvania, never had seen a woman pastor. She reported that after the service, one man baiting her, shook her hand and said, "You preach pretty good for a woman." She smiled and replied, "You listen pretty well for a man." Fact is, God has a prenatal plan for all of us. We all have within us power and purpose from God, maybe still waiting to be released. Instead of "I am only," we can say, "I'm a child of God. Before I was formed in the womb, God knew me. Before I was born, I was set apart for something good and beautiful and noble." To believe that about ourselves is to unleash a host of power and possibility. "I am only" does not compute. A dewdrop does God's will as much as a thunderstorm. We are children of God with purpose. Amen.